because I'm old and I've got nodules in my voice box. I started soapboxing speaking here in 1982, and we used to get arrested for it. We used to get arrested for just gathering 3 or more people back then and marching and handing out flyers. Since then I've spent 2 years in prison for anti-war activity in the United States. My last haircut was in Bogger Road Jail in '88, and I was acquitted of $2.5 million criminal damage of a US warplane en route to this war as it stopped over in Ireland. And the main thing I always say when I'm soapbox speaking, whether Ireland or London or here, is that what the state wants you to be is they don't want you to be active citizens. They don't want you to be listening to ideas. What they want you to be is passive consumers. They want to think the only freedom you have, the only human freedom you can have under capitalism and the American empire is at the point of consumption, where you get to choose between Nike and Reebok, between Pepsi and Coke. There is no freedom at the workplace, no freedom at the church, or in the academy, or in the school places. Now, it depends how you want to live your life. My life's well over half over. I'm 52 now. I've been doing this for 35 years. I've been arrested about 70 times. I spent 2 years in prison because I want to be free, okay? And I'm not willing to live like some sedated slave that they want me to live like. And I've been with Julian Assange over the last 15 months. I've been with him at every court appearance in London. And I can assure you that he's a good man, a good bloke, an Australian. He said to me about the British media, I'm an Australian, I'm not an effing liar. And there's great things about this culture, and there's terrible things. This society was built on Aboriginal genocide and Irish slavery. That's what built this society. But every story is redeemable, as Jesus tells us. Every story. And my best friend in London is an SAS veteran from this war. They deployed him to Baghdad under American command. Every second night they'd fly out to some little village and he would blow their way into a home, and they would detain everyone of military age, every male from 15 to 65, and they'd chopper those guys back to Baghdad. The Americans would walk down the line and say, we'll have this one and that one and that one. The ones they didn't want went to Abu Ghraib. Abu Ghraib was a minimum security prison, and all the sexual abuse the Americans put on those people. The serious ones they wanted were taken to black sites, secret sites to be tortured. They had the SAS, the Delta Force, the Rangers, and the Blackwater mercenaries in the chalets that Saddam used to have for his henchmen. They had swimming pools in the back of the big chalet where they would drown these Iraqis, where they'd torture and waterboard them, and they had electric cattle prods. Now, torture in the last 10 years has become mainstream in our society. We've learned to accept torture for Muslims, for terrorists, and now they've tortured Bradley Manning, a white boy, a member of the US military who's exposed the nature of this war. We accepted indefinite detention without charge, and Dr. Hanif was put in this watch house here and taken to this jail there without ever being charged. We accepted it for Arabs and for Muslims, and now they've got Julian Assange, a white Queenslander, detained for over 500 days in England, not charged with anything anywhere. Because we accept this stuff, it will come home. As Malcolm X said when John F. Kennedy was shot, the chickens have come home to roost. Chickens have come home to roost. So Martin Luther King, before they shot him, said, America is the greatest purveyor of human violence in the world. This Martin Luther King, only a few years earlier, gave his I Have a Dream speech. So this is the reality. Australia has been involved in most wars that have nothing to do with the defence of Australia. The war against the Aboriginal people that continues. I've just come back from Mitchell. The Boer War that had nothing to do with us. World War I that had nothing to do with us. The North African World War II war that had nothing to do with us. Vietnam that had nothing to do with us. Iraq that had nothing to do with us. Today, young men and women from Gallipoli Barracks, and I grew up out there during the Vietnam War, are being deployed to Afghanistan to kill and die. To kill and die. And that's what officer and said, this is a war crime. His commanding officer said, ignore it. That's why Bradley Manning released it to Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. That's why these two men will probably spend the rest of their lives in prison. And all we're asked to do is be silent, avert our gaze, consume, consume, consume. Some of us are not willing to do that. Got any questions, ask them. Otherwise, just let up be a very boring speaker.